I'm Brian Barnett. I'm just a regular guy. I'm not a doctor. I have no legal license in any field of psychology. But I did live a large part of my life with borderline personality disorder unknowingly. And I really did rid myself of the disorder completely and permanently. Through that, I've become an expert on issues involving emotional health. I accept no responsibility whatsoever for your feelings, thoughts, behaviors, decisions, and actions, including your decision to watch or listen to this show at all. But I do hope you might benefit yourself from the insights I share. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome back to The Last Symptom. I'm Brian Barnett, the creator and host of The Last Symptom. And my goodness, it sure is nice to see you all again. I know it's been a couple of weeks, and let me tell you something. It is cold outside. Baby, it's cold outside. You know that song? If you don't, you're missing out. Baby, it's cold outside. Baby, it's cold outside. So, 25 degrees Fahrenheit. For you folks who aren't here in the United States, that's -4 degrees Celsius outside right now. And yet, every time I go out there and parts of my body want to shrivel up inside of me because it's so cold, I have to tell myself, it is still 15 degrees warmer than it was on the first 2 days that I was out on my big, epic backpacking excursion in the backcountry in the mountains last week. That's right. 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So 15 degrees less than it is tonight. That's 25 degrees Fahrenheit, -4 degrees Celsius out there right now. 15 degrees less than that during the days, the first 2 days. So forget about the nights. It was a lot colder in the nighttime. And yet, we had a really good time. Stayed comfortable for the most part and just had an epic adventure out there. But I'm happy to be back. The day before we come out of the woods, we got lost. I mean, we got proper lost. The only thing making it not proper lost, I reckon, is that I had a map. And I could see it was a topographic map. And I knew where we were on the map. We just couldn't find this trail that we really needed to find. And so we ended up bushwhacking without a trail. So just going through the woods without a trail. And here's the situation, by the way. Everything's covered in snow. And so you can't see any trails. Very hard to see trails. Very hard to see any markers or anything like that. But on the topographic map, I saw that we were right on the edge of a saddle. A saddle is where you're right on the edge of a holler, a big ravine, let's say, where two mountains come together, and that dip down between the two mountains. So we were standing right on the edge of that saddle, and I kept telling my buddy, because daytime was getting long in the tooth, and I knew we weren't going to make it where we were trying to go. I told him several times, I said, I don't want to go down into that saddle. I knew that, first of all, when you have to hike through snow, it's exhausting. Even if you're wearing like Gore-Tex boots or something like that, eventually the snow will break through your boots, and so your feet are cold. It's taking a lot of energy just to keep your body warm and all those things. And I knew that if we went down into the saddle between those two mountains, that was going to suck up just all the energy we had. And so we were going to end up hiking through the dark. By the time we set up a camp, we were just going to be busted and just exhausted. And I just really didn't want that. So I kept telling him, I don't want to go down in that saddle. I said, I'll tell you what we can do. I said, we can skirt around it. We can just bushwhack and skirt around it. And he says, well, let's do that. And I wasn't looking forward to that either, because you're just crunching through. It's just a lot of work. Bushwhacking is a lot of work, and it's a lot more work whenever you're ankle deep in snow and all that. But we did that, and as we were bushwhacking, I saw a geographic landmark, a mountain that I recognized, and I said, we need to be closer to that. So we bushwhacked closer through the mountain, through the woods, closer to that. And lo and behold, as we were doing so, we come into contact with the trail that had been lost to us the whole day. And so it was kind of like we made all the right decisions to end up there. Boy, there's a lot of comparisons you can make with emotional health to that too, couldn't you? Kind of flailing about, but making the right decisions while you're flailing about, and ending up where you want to be. And so we got the trail. We never did make it to where we wanted to be that night. So we ended up having to we just picked a spot out in the woods around no water. And we just created a camp there, spent the night there, and used snow for our water. So we melted snow by our fire and had water all night and the next day to get us out of there. So there's kind of a little rundown of my story. Of course, if you want to see the whole thing in detail, you can subscribe to The Practical Woodsman. That's my other identity, my other channel on YouTube and Rumble. And I've been posting footage of all that there on that other channel. Let's do some announcements, then we'll get talking about emotional health stuff. Announcements. Number 1, thelastsymptom.com. That's my website full of paid and free resources. Go take advantage of both of them. The paid resources, of course, financially support what I do here. I have an online community, of a thriving online community over on the Locals platform. So you can join by going over to thelastsymptom.locals.com or by downloading the locals.com app from the App Store. That's LOCALS.com. And then once you open up the app and sign in, you just search for The Last Symptom by Brian Barnett. Remember, I'm doing live streams every Monday. We do Monday live streams on our Last Symptom community, online community there on Locals. It's exclusive to Locals. You get personal, direct interaction with me during those live streams. So it's something you might want to do. Orange slices. Do you remember what those are? Those are condensed video insights that I publish daily, most days. I usually don't post them on Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays because new episodes of this show come out on Thursday or Friday, and I don't want the orange slices competing with the brand new episode. So, orange slices, I'm still publishing them daily. So if you want to take advantage of those daily condensed video insights, subscribe to The Last Symptom on YouTube, on Rumble, or become a member of our group there on Locals. They have the best experience, that community there. Of course, one of the paid resources over at thelastsymptom.com is the 2-week intensive The Last Symptom Fundamentals pre-recorded course, which is a video program. I'm the presenter, and I present the entire program using a kind of a PowerPoint type presentation. And people, by far, most people who take that course come out changed, singing its praises, never looking back at life the same as they did before they went in. And today, I wanted to share with you that I got somebody who communicated with me, who was considering taking the Last Symptom Fundamentals course. And she called me, and she wanted to know if I could provide her with notes for the entire 2 weeks of that course. So I messaged her back, and I told her that I strongly recommend note taken during the course. In fact, it's a kind of an integral, necessary part of taking the course is that you should be prepared to take notes. She says, well, I'm not sure about that. Not sure if I want to take notes. I think if I'm paying for the course, that you should just provide the notes for me. Well, what do you think I told her? Do you think I said, yeah, well, you just go ahead and take the course. I think it's going to do you all kinds of good. No, I didn't tell her that. You know why? Because I don't think that even if she did take the course, it'd do her any good. Why not? Because the woman is so uninvested in herself that she can't even bring herself to take notes. Taking notes is too big of a chore for her to invest in. For a program that could literally change her life around, but she doesn't want to take notes. So I don't want her taking my course, because she's going to take the course, it's not going to do her any good, and then she's going to blame it on the course, isn't she? Yes, that's what's going to happen. Not going to do the things she needs to do to get better, and she's going to point the finger at the course and say it's the course's fault. How people who are being like this can think that they are ever going to eliminate their emotional disorder when they're not even willing to put in the bare bones minimum effort for themselves is astonishing. So she's got the Rosetta Stone mindset. You know that? You ever hear of Rosetta Stone language learning? How do they advertise their programs on their commercials? Do you remember? They say, you don't have to do any hard work. You don't have to do any pointless memorization, they say. And by the end of it, you will magically speak another language. That's the thing. That's how they sell every one of those programs. I've never met a person who has learned a language for real by using Rosetta Stone. And yet, the Rosetta Stone language packages are among the most expensive out there. Their whole marketing strategy is you won't have to do any work, but at the end, you'll magically be able to do this thing. I don't know how they can get away with it. Honestly, to me, that should be illegal. It should be illegal to make a claim like that. But they make the claim, and people just snatch that Rosetta Stone language learning stuff up left and right. I will tell you this, that if you want to learn another language, there's no getting around memorizing. There's no getting around memorization. You have to memorize. You have to sit down and memorize vocabulary words. You just have to. So they lied to you. But this woman kind of has that same mentality, doesn't she? I just want to pay $500, she's thinking, and then I want the program to do it all for me. At the end, I want to be magically cured of my emotional disorder. Is that ever going to happen? It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Believe me, if I could tell you that could happen, I would tell you, and I would implement it into my program. Because, of course, I want to make I want to get my financial support from that program, and I want as many people as possible to take it. But I ain't going to lie to you. And I don't want insincere, unmotivated people taking it either. so that they at the end can just turn around and blame all of their failures on the course. Something to think about. The course can change your life, but you have to be motivated. You have to be taking the course for the proper motives, for the proper reasons. And you have to be at a place in your life where you're willing to, you're really wanting to work on yourself for yourself. Then it can do you lots of good. But if you're just somebody who thinks you're going to pay me $500 and I'm going to magically cure you, the Rosetta Stone method, when you're out of your mind. It doesn't work like that. And you're not at a place yet where anybody can help you, let alone me. So you need to adjust your attitude a little bit before you can be at a place where anything can help you. As a retired linguist myself, interpreter, professional interpreter, the Rosetta Stone, now not the commercial language learning group, but I'm talking about the literal Rosetta Stone. Did you know that it's a real thing? Yeah, it's an actual stone. That is very fascinating to me. When I was a kid, I went through a period of being fascinated by code breaking, by taking ciphers and codes, not having a key or any way of discerning what the code or the cipher said, and then sitting with it and looking for clues about how to break that cipher. In other words, how to take a completely unintelligible message and break it so that I could read it, or a code, same way. And there are various tricks that you can do for that. And I'll tell you the book that got me into that. It was a book called Alvin's Secret Code, about a kid who finds a code and brings it to his grandpa. And his grandpa was like a famous cryptologist. That's what they called code breakers back in the day, cryptologists, I believe. And the grandpa can't break the code. Nobody can break the code. And by the end of the book, this kid ends up doing it. He ends up figuring out the solution to being able to read this encoded message. So that really got me fascinated by those things. And for a long time, I went through this period where I would challenge my friends. I bet you can't write a code or a cipher that I'm unable to break. Man, people would challenge me all over the place. And I'm very proud to say that I was never presented a code that I didn't eventually break. That was when I was a kid. So if I had gone into that line of work professionally, I think, as a grown-up, I think I would have done quite well in it. Although it's gotten a lot more complex these days with computers and stuff. I mean, I believe there are unbreakable codes without some kind of electronic key. So maybe not. That might be, my romantic notion of that might be well outdated. But what I wanted to tell you about this Rosetta Stone, there were several ancient languages that were just lost to time. A couple of ancient languages that were just lost to time. So archaeologists and scholars, they were at a complete loss. They couldn't read they couldn't read when they would find archaeological finds and stuff like that. They couldn't decipher these languages, and they were at a real loss. And even what they thought, even when they would find these things written in these ancient lost languages, they might have theories about what it said and things like that, but they couldn't know for sure until they found the Rosetta Stone. And the Rosetta Stone is a big stone tablet, and upon it were written the three messages in three different languages. So the same message was written 3 times upon this stone, but in 3 different languages. The exact same message was written upon the stone 3 different times in 3 different languages. And one of those languages, I believe, was Greek. And that is how that became the key to understanding those lost languages. Because if you've got, I believe it was Greek. If not, it was another language that scholars and archaeologists were already familiar with. If you've got a message written in, let's say, English, and you have that exact same message written in Swahili, then a skilled linguist can study the two side by side and can deduce every word in Swahili, even though he doesn't speak Swahili, he or she. So isn't that kind of cool? And that's kind of how cryptologists work too. You find just something that reveals to you the meaning of a thing within the message, and from that you expand upon it until you understand the entire language. Very fascinating. Anyway, getting off on a tangent there with the Rosetta Stone. But if you don't know anything about that actual stone, it's worth doing some research on. It's just it was a fascinating discovery, a real treasure chest to find that, because it then opened up understanding of the ancient world and of these ancient languages that archaeologists and scholars and stuff like that just had no way of ascertaining. Let's talk about happiness. Now, this, I think, was part of an orange slice I did way back when I first started the orange slices, but I don't think we ever talked about this in the show, in our primary show here. So I thought that this would be a good time to do it. Talk about happiness, and what we're going to talk about specifically is 20 signs you're not really happy, even if you think you're happy. So a lot of folks that I talked to, and even me in the past, I believed I was happy while I was living with an emotional disorder. Why did I believe I was happy? Because when you've never been happy, inferior approximations seem the same to you. Like, how would you know? If you've never been content for real, how would you know what that's like? You don't. So when when I was unhealthy, I reckon that my idea of being happy was the absence or the lull, a break in conflict and frustration. So if things were going along pretty good in my life, it seemed, I said, I'm happy. And that's not happiness. Happiness is not just the absence of frustration. So I wanted to go through this list of 20 things that indicate you're not really happy, even if you think you are. Before we get into this discussion, I do want to acknowledge you folks out there who are experiencing depression this time of year. It's a common thing for a variety of reasons. There's a lot less daylight, and that can affect even the healthiest of us. It's a physical reaction to less daylight. Affects a lot of people. I know it's right now, it's getting dark at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The days are gray for the most part. So I wake up, it's gray. I start doing my stuff for the day, and I look at the clock and it's getting dark already. Not even 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That'll take its toll on me eventually. That's usually why I like to take a vacation right around Christmas time or New Year's. I like to mix things up a little bit so that the drudgery of very, very short days and very little sunlight gets kind of mixed up, and I can get out and be outdoors more and those sorts of things. Of course, coming back from this backpacking trip was just wonderful. Oh man, I'll tell you what, it was cold out there. Parts of me withering up and withering up and disappearing inside my body, trying to hide from the cold. But I don't care. Just getting out and feeling alive, doing something different, being active out in nature. So wonderful. That kind of has lifted me up from the drudgery of this time of year. Anyway, I simply want to acknowledge that there are a lot of folks out there who are depressed this time of year. Just talking to somebody who I really care about a lot, she's a member of the Last Symptom community. I've known her, been talking to her for many years now, and I care about her. And she's telling me that she's going through this depression. I'm limited about what I can do about that. It's mostly up to her, figuring out what her feelings are trying to tell her and what she can do about it. She needs to do that. She needs to do some other practical things to lift herself out of that state. It might be as simple as starting to go to a tanning bed. I think I mentioned to you folks in the past, I am not opposed to that. I have done that. Going to tanning beds in the wintertime. Not beds, I don't like lying on those things, but like booths, So getting all naked and climbing into a booth and just standing in UV light for 8 minutes, 9 minutes, it can really lift the spirits. In fact, getting a little collar to your skin can really lift your spirits. So what I guess what I'm saying is that I just want you folks to know that it's not lost on me that many people this time of year, for a variety of reasons, my good old buddy Jordan, my late buddy Jordan, who died in the car accident all those years ago, this time of year is very hard on his mother. She's the only remaining one alive. His dad's gone, his brother's gone, and it's just Judy. And all of these deaths kind of happened around this time of year. Right when there's less sunlight, days are shorter, it's cold, it's gray all the time. What do you reckon that her depression is trying to tell her, her feelings? What's the message? What are they trying to tell her? They're trying to tell her something that is unfixable. They're trying to tell her a thing that is unfixable. So there's no solution where she listens to her feelings and says, okay, well, I just need to do this and this and this, and it'll fix all of the causes for me feeling this way. There is no solution. Her solution is to wait patiently until the day she gets to see her family again, and to live life and enjoy life and make the best of life in the meantime, and to be positive, think positive things, think in positive ways. But as far as her listening to her feelings and saying, what are my feelings telling me? And why are they telling me that? What's the answer going to be? My feelings are telling me that I've suffered great losses in life. That the people I really, really love and have spent most of my life with are no longer here. That's the message. What's the solution? There is no solution right now. Like I said, the solution is not to, she's going to get to the bottom of why she feels that way, and then there's something she can do about it. As far as undoing the causes of those feelings, there's no undoing it. Acceptance is the answer. So I kind of just described that. Just looking at it and saying, well, there is no fixing that. But accepting that it's okay to feel that way. That it is, that those feelings are completely natural. That they make sense. And then it's just a matter of where her hope is for the future. Of course, I happen to know her really well. I know that she's a God-fearing person. She believes in the promises that the Bible gives us about the future, and so she does live with a lot of hope. But it doesn't take away current realities, does it? Doesn't fix current realities. It just gives you something to look forward to and a reason to be positive despite all the unhappy feelings. So for those of you who are suffering from depression this time of year, that's the thing you need to do too. You need to sit, listen to your feelings. First of all, allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, and then you got to say, what are my feelings trying to tell me? In your case, in your specific case, it might not be a situation where there is no answer. It might be that you need somebody to talk to. In that case, there are solutions, aren't there? There are practical things that you can do. You can call up family. You can call up friends. You can be proactive and go out and meet new people. I always recommended when I remember when I moved to New England, I didn't know anybody in New England. You know what the first thing I did was? By the way, you talk about gray and dreary and cold and not enough sunlight. Moved to New England. I'm telling you what, summer I think was the nicest 2 days of the year there. The rest of it was just never enough daylight, always too cold, and things like that. But that was one thing I did. First thing I did was I got familiar with the local library and started going up there and talking to the librarians up there, making friends with them. Of course, most of them were a lot older than me. But, what does age matter? You're just looking for fellowship and good conversation. And, too many people, I think, limit themselves to friendships within their own age group. I personally happen to love hanging out with 80-year-old ladies in a book club at that library. So that's what I did. I found out that they had a book club there. And I joined that book club. And so then it was like once a week, I think, we would meet over at that library. This was in Smithfield, Rhode Island. And I'd hang out with these ladies at the library. And I'd read the books that they wanted to read that I hated. And actually, when I joined the book club, they let me recommend the very first book to read after I joined. And I recommended that Stephen King book, the sequel to The Shining. What was it? Dr. Sleep. That was the book. Yeah, I recommended that. And so, all these old ladies are probably not big Stephen King fans. They all read that book, and then we got together, we talked about it and everything. And of course, then they recommended a bunch of books that I didn't want to read, really, that I wouldn't have read on my own accord. But I read it. I read those books, and it got me close to these people. I created friendships with a lot of old ladies, and it was wonderful. Kept me out of, remember during that time was the deepest, darkest, gloomiest time of my life, because I was just starting in my own recovery. I just lost everything in my life. Didn't know anybody. I just moved to a brand new area chasing work. Didn't know anybody. And that helped. But you see how I was proactive. I wasn't just going to sit around and stew in my misery by myself. Even at that early time, not understanding why I was feeling what I was feeling. I didn't want to just sit and stew. I wanted to be proactive and do practical things that I could do to not remain in that state. So something to think about. Might be as easy as some phone calls, a regular visit with some friends, FaceTime. A new hobby, a new interest, getting out of the house, exercise, and even eating right. How about sleep? Are you sleeping right? If you're not sleeping right, do you understand that that will affect everything else? In fact, folks who come to me and say, I'd really like to recover from my emotional disorder. Can I get started in your last symptom fundamentals course and all that? And then they tell me I don't sleep. I sleep 2 hours a night. I said, well, that kind of has to be addressed first, wouldn't you think? How are you really going to be able to take advantage of something like an intensive course about how to rid yourself of your emotional disorder with no sleep, with no rest? Your mind is not going to be functioning at a very good capacity if you're deprived of all this sleep. So really, we kind of need to get the sleep thing under control, don't you think? And then once you're well rested and you're sleeping better, that would be the time to do a really studious 2-week intensive course, don't you think? Because then you'll get the most out of it. I hope you see, folks, that I'm not offering any kind of super insight that is mind-blowing in its intelligence. This is common sense stuff. So often, when things seem very complex, maybe you're making them complex. Maybe it's not a matter of me being so super smart. Maybe it's a matter of me being able to shove away stuff that are just needless stuff that is complicating what is very simple. And so that is a skill I would like you to try to work on too. Remember, it's one of my ongoing key expressions, I reckon, my brain's not working tonight, is simplify, 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 right? Things are complicated. You're probably the one making it that way. Simplify it. If you're depressed and you're not doing the practical things that you can do, you're not being proactive and doing practical things that you can do to get yourself out of that state, well, what am I going to do for you? Except for maybe help you simplify. Listen to what the feelings are telling you. Try to understand what they're saying about your needs, and then give yourself that. In the case of Judy, Jordan's mom, like I said, there is no easy solution. In that case, it comes down to acceptance, endurance, and patience. Patience for the day when she'll see her sons and her husband again. But in the meantime, she has to think positively. She has to pay attention to what she's thinking and how she's choosing to think about those things. Because when we are depressed or we're unhappy or we're feeling down, the tendency is to feed into that. The tendency, unfortunately, is not to recognize that we ourselves are feeding a lot of that and to starve it. That's not the tendency. That's what we can do, but that's not our tendency. The tendency is to feed that monster more and more and more. How do we feed the monster? With what we choose to think about and how we choose to think about things. It's the easier thing to do, but it's not the right thing to do. Anyway, again, I got off on a big tangent there, but it was because I was thinking about you folks who are feeling down this time of year, and my heart goes out to you. It's a bad time of year to be down. And I'd like you to do what you can to pull yourselves out of that. 20 signs you're not really happy, even if you think you are. Number 1, you do not catch yourself more frequently thinking about and feeling grateful for the small positive things in your life then you spend time thinking negatively. Kind of ties into what we just said, doesn't it? So remember, these are 20 signs that you're not happy, even if you think you are. And this is for people who say, I'm happy. Even with my emotional disorder, I'm happy. These things prove you are not. So what is number one? Instead of most of the time sitting around thinking grateful, positive things, most of the time you're sitting around thinking negative things. That's number one. Number two, other people's preferences, when they're different from your preferences, annoy you or make you angry. Other people's preferences, when they're different from your preferences, annoy you or make you angry. That's the number two sign that even if you think you're happy, you ain't. Number three, you are not content being settled for very long. So as soon as you accomplish something, or you've bought something that you really thought you needed, it's not long before the pleasure of it wears off and you're craving something entirely new or different. And that reminds me of when Diana, my ex-wife, and I had just bought a new house in a beautiful neighborhood there in Hatboro, Pennsylvania. I spent an entire summer renovating that house from top to bottom. Top to bottom. I'm telling you, we gutted that house. And it was a project I worked on all summer long. I had a vision for how that house should look. As soon as I saw it, I had a vision in my mind of what it could be. We bought the house, and then just all summer long I was working on it, renovating that house from top to bottom, and I made that vision a reality. Man, completely transformed that house. Kitchen with all stone tile and brand new cabinets, and backyard with this beautiful patio, and I completely tore off the back porch, completely rebuilt that. Stripped and repainted every room, redesigned every room. Tore out the entire bathroom, gutted it. Put in a brand new tub, shower, natural stone tile everywhere. Just worked that house up and down. And then by the second year we were there, I remember lying in bed talking to her, saying, you know what? I have this dream. I have this dream of having of us selling the house, moving out to the country somewhere, and we'll start a dog kennel. And I'll tell you, I just finished reading a book called Edgar Sawtelle. And it was all about, it was Hamlet is what it was. It was a remake of Hamlet, but on a farm. And this family creates a brand new breed of dog called a Sawtelle dog. And I think that was the most fascinating part of that whole book for me, was seeing the process of breeding over generations, creating something new, as a brand new breed of dog. Everything it really goes into good breeding, really understanding dogs, really focusing upon them as individuals and playing off their strengths and stuff like that. Calling, that's Culling, and it seems barbaric to people who are sensitive, but it's where you take the weaker animals and you end their life so they can't then contribute to the gene pool anymore. And as barbaric as it sounds, that's how you end up with the best animals over time. So it was just, the whole thing was fascinating to me, and I just read that book, Edgar Sawtelle, and I had these dreams, like I saw this is possible. If I really want to do this, we could do this. But we had just built, basically, I mean, completely renovated our dream home in our dream neighborhood. We had everything. And life was so good and calm. And here I was lying in bed wanting to upset all of that and sell everything, uproot everything, and go start a dog kennel and start trying to breed my own dogs. What was that a sign of? It was a sign of that I was not happy. Something inside of me was nagging at me. I was unhappy. I was restless. I couldn't enjoy the calm. Why couldn't I enjoy the calm? Because I wasn't happy. Things don't make you happy. Things don't make you happy. They don't bring contentment. Contentment comes from within yourself. Contentment comes from within yourself with yourself. So I wasn't happy with myself. And I thought that I would find it I thought it was always right around the corner. If I just do this, if I just buy this, if I just make this change in my life, if I just go and do this thing, then I will find it. You see that restlessness is a telltale sign that a person is not happy, even if they think they are. Restlessness. Number 4, irritable seems to be your default mood. So think about walking around with a toothache that nobody knows about, and the natural way that you'd interact with others given the uncomfortableness of the toothache. Telltale sign that you're not happy. Content people aren't walking around irritable all the time. If you catch yourself walking around irritable all the time, just like depression, that's another time where you have to stop and say, why? Why am I irritable? What thoughts am I playing into that are contributing to this? Remember, we have control over our thoughts. I cannot overemphasize that. That can never be overemphasized. You have full control over your thoughts. But not only that, you have full control over how you choose to think about a thing. Right? So I can look outside and I know, it's a rainy day. Gosh, that's depressing. Boy, it makes me think of death. It makes me think of all these, even seasons, right? It's winter. Makes me think of growing old, like the winter of my life and all the things I haven't accomplished, never will accomplish. Do you see how you're choosing there? Not only what you're going to think about, but how you're going to think about it. Now, let's talk for a second about how you think about a thing. Is there anything inherently depressing about the rain? No, there's nothing innately or inherently depressing about rain. It all depends on how you choose to look at it. When you think about playing in the rain as a kid, splashing around in the mud puddles, when you think about how it supplies the earth with everything it needs, how beautiful it is to sit by a window on a gray, dreary day with a cup of hot tea and a good book, or in a Starbucks, and to be sitting right by the window with the rain drizzling down the window. You see, that's what I'm talking about how you choose to think about a thing. You can choose to think about it in a depressing, dreary, sad way, but it's your choice. Like I say, there's nothing innately depressing about rain. We assign it that by choice. But we can just as well assign the rain positive thoughts. And neither one of them's right, neither one of them's wrong. It's just that one is constructive and positive and the other one is negative and destructive in most cases. You know, I'll never forget when my grandpa died, my mom's dad, Rut, the man I'm partly named after. The day of his funeral and his wake, was the most glorious fall day I think I've ever experienced. Beautiful blue skies, all the leaves, oranges and reds and all different colors of the rainbow, blue. I remember being out in the cemetery on that beautiful fall day and thinking how odd it is to be having a funeral, to be watching them lower my grandpa into the ground on such a beautiful day. But is there anything odd about that at all? There's nothing odd about that at all. It's not like people only die on rainy days, or that rainy gray days inherently signifies or represents death. You know what else signifies and represents death? Sunny, gorgeous blue days in the fall. That's something to think about. The emotional sides of us associate colors with feelings. And, we associate like rainy days with certain feelings, and blue, beautiful days with certain feelings, but they're not inherently linked. We assign them that. We imagine that within ourselves. We connect the two things when there is no connection. There is no connection between rainy days and death, any more so than there is between snowy days and death, or beautiful blue days on the beach and death, in the tropics. There is no inherent relationship between those things. Pay attention to how you're choosing to think about things, and choose to think about different things, or if you don't want to think about different things, choose to think about the same things in a different way. You have that power. The number 5 sign that you're not really happy even if you think you are. You're rarely on time for things. I'm not talking about just being late from time to time. I'm saying it's a natural aspect of your style of living at the time. When that's true, you're not happy. We can have a whole big discussion about why. But maybe that could be your homework. Sit around and say, why is a person who's never on time, well, I shouldn't say never on time, why is a person who is infrequently on time for things not really happy even if they think they are? It's not just a matter of being responsible or not. Number 6, there is more friction and disharmony among you and your friends or family members than there is harmony and peace. Number 7, you're a compulsive spender, or you're bad with managing money. Your credit is in shambles, not because of poverty, but rather for reasons you could have avoided. You're not happy even if you think you are. Number 8, a large part of your choices in life are made with an image in mind. It's a good one. In other words, a large part of your choices in life are made to appeal to or impress other observers. That's a huge one. The clothes you purchase and wear, the girlfriend or boyfriend you decide to get into a relationship with and allow to be public knowledge, the social activities you seek out, the friends you allow others to associate you with, or that you do not allow others to associate you with. So how many friendship possibilities have you passed up on because you say, well, that person doesn't match my image, the image I want to project. I did that in the past, and it's something I truly regret. I went through a period of desperately wanting to fit in to a certain crowd, and I regret that. How about this one? The image of yourself, your friends, or your family that you display on social media is meant to present an image of happiness and idyllic life that does not reflect the reality you deal with behind closed doors every single day. Number 10, your children are generally misbehaved, loud, and unruly. You're not happy. Number 11, your children are unusually shy, quiet, fearful, and withdrawn. You're not really happy. Number 12, you have no organized routines in place in your life. Everything's chaotic and sort of done off the cuff. For example, you don't have regular times when you eat, and when you do eat, you regularly make it up on the spot without any plan or forethought. You ain't happy. Number 13, you frequently have feuds going on between you and other people. You ain't happy, even if you think you are. When someone angers you, you cut off contact, waiting for them to initiate an apology, rather than you yourself initiating contact to calmly explain to them that they've upset you and why you found it so upsetting. When you give people this cold, silent treatment, you're determined to carry it on for years or until the end of time, as long as that other person doesn't come to you to make it right. You ain't happy, even if you think you are. Number 15, you listen to a lot of angry music with angry messaging. You're not happy, even if you think you are. Number 16, you spend more time thinking about what other people are doing, should be doing, or should not be doing, than you spend time looking at yourself, trying to fairly identify your own flaws and correct your own flaws if correctable. If that's true, you ain't happy. Number 17, you don't easily pause to consider context in any situation. For example, if somebody you know or a celebrity does or says something that you disagree with, you're quick to feverishly condemn them completely without ever taking time out to remember when you yourself have said things that you later regretted, or how your very own opinions on various things have evolved over time and continue to evolve, or how many people have disagreed with your views and opinions, but that at least respectfully heard you out, treated you with respect, even though they disagreed with you. And they allowed for your right to have those opinions. Just the other day, I saw Elon Musk on Twitter. Somebody was going after somebody that he has kept on the Twitter. You know, he just bought Twitter. And so he fired a lot of Twitter staff, but he did not fire some of the Twitter staff, and he even promoted them. And they've been serving in important aspects of work there at Twitter. And there was a certain group of people who were just going after one of the people that he allowed to remain, saying, oh, you know, this guy, look at him, showing tweets from this guy's past and everything like that. And of course, the tweets from the guy who Elon Musk has allowed to stay there at Twitter, they reflected a certain leaning, let's say, very strongly reflected certain political ideologies that the folks complaining did not agree with or like. And Elon Musk made a tweet. He said, you know, all of us tweet things that show our ignorance or or that we later regret, or that upset people. He said some of us do that more than others. But I don't remember what the rest of the tweet was. But yeah, that was the message. Basically, it was like, yeah, the guy has said some pretty stupid things. But I've said some stupid things too on Twitter. And so have you, and so have we all. But he said, I trust the guy's abilities. I know his intentions for the work I need done is right. So it doesn't really matter if I agree with him politically, if I agree with him on this or that. He's here to serve a purpose. He's here to do a job. And in that job, I trust him 100%. But I'll never forget that. That said to me, Musk must be a pretty happy guy. He must be pretty happy if he's able to put a thing like stupid tweets into context like that and even admit, I've done a lot of stupid tweeting in my life too. We all have. But that doesn't diminish the person's ability to do their job. I really admired that. Let's see here. Number 18. You're secretly harsh and critical of yourself. And because of this, you're also harsh and critical of others. You ain't happy, even if you think you are. Number 19. Although you're secretly harsh and critical of yourself, you would never allow those around you to know it, because it would contradict the illusion you've created of yourself to observers. You're driven by a secret fear of allowing others to perceive your insecurities or your vulnerabilities. And number 20, your tendency is to try to control your environment. That's a big one. What makes up your environment? Other people, like your children, expecting them to behave or answer in prescripted ways that you have in mind. What other things make up your environment? World events, the weather, the way certain things play out different than you envision them. So this is just a list that I had sat down and pulled off the top of my head a couple years back, I think. And it's still good, still golden. I hope it gives you some things to think about. And I had a story to tell you about Tippy, my old dog Tippy. And that's just going to have to wait. But my goodness, that's a fantastic campfire story. I'm looking forward to telling you all about Tippy, perhaps in the next episode of this show. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourselves. Interact with us there on our online community on Locals, especially if you're feeling down this time of the season. And allow the members of the community to allow them in to know what's going on. Allow them to offer their insights and their thoughts. They might be able to encourage you in ways that I can't remember. I'm just one person, and so I've only got usually one take on things, whereas it's always astonishing to me how members of our community, they'll look at something somebody is expressing, and they say, it makes me think about this. And I go, wow, that's brilliant. It's beautiful and brilliant. I would not have come up with that. So, the Last Symptom community, online community, is really meant to be a wonderful complement to the work I do. It's supposed to provide what as just one person, I could never provide on my own. It's the whole reason I created it. It's the whole reason I foster it and I spend time on it and I invest in it. That I invest in all of you. You're all very, very important to me. Not just for the financial reasons, that support the ongoing work here. It's much bigger than that. I think we've created something together with The Last Symptom that I could have never foresaw. And it's something I'm very proud of. But I couldn't do it on my own. It's the whole community, the whole Last Symptom community, of which I make up a very small part. So do something nice for yourselves this weekend. It doesn't have to be elaborate, but do it. And join us there on Locals. Interact with us. Stay active with us. We've got such good people there. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next week.